force of the powerful earthquake. The video shows that massive pipelines burst into flames as well. Take a look. As several buildings collapsed, debris was spread all across the streets. Locals were seen standing on the rubble of a collapsed building in Diyarbakir trying to search for survivors. Many people were trapped under the debris. Search operation is currently underway. Residents were seen triggering a search for survivors under the rubble on the streets. Massive earthquake striking Turkey right there. Earthquake of magnitude 7.8 in central Turkey kills nearly 1,500 people and over 5,000 have been left injured. The German Research Center for Geosciences said the quake struck at a depth of 10 kilometers in the southern Turkish city of Kahramanmaras. Earthquake resulted in collapse of dozens of buildings with debris spread all over the streets. Many people were trapped under the debris. The search operation is underway. More than 2,000 people rescued under the rubble. Natural gas pipelines in Hatay also burst under the force of the powerful earthquake. Locals were seen standing on the rubble of the collapsed building in Diyarbakir trying to search for survivors. The officials are now warning the death toll is expected to rise. Turkish authorities scrambled rescue teams and supply aircraft to the region around the city. Runway of Hatay airport in Turkey was damaged due to a massive earthquake. Tremors were also felt in Cyprus, Lebanon, Syria, and light shaking was felt in Jordan, Israel and Egypt. Geeta Mohan is still on the phone line. Now, Geeta, these are some scary visuals and scary information that we're bringing for our viewers. Is there any kind of advisory that is going out? Because this is the second earthquake. The first one caused a fair bit of damage, a lot of damage, I would say. We still have to receive information in terms of the casualties in the second one, but any advisory going out?
Well, none whatsoever, because in terms of the Turkish government putting out advisories, I suppose it's only information department putting out information regarding what happened and what is being done in terms of rescue and aid, the medical aid. But beyond that, because earthquakes are not something that is predicted way in advance, is the reason why now Turkey is preparing herself for any such repeat of, we do know that when earthquake hits, there would be afterwaves, aftershocks and tremors that would be felt, or a repeat of an earthquake, maybe lower in magnitude in the same region, in the same area because of the tectonic shift in the plate. But over here, the fact that two earthquakes have hit southeast Turkey, both above 7 on the Richter scale, clearly shows that this region is going to be quite badly and adversely impacted when it comes to a loss of life and damage of property. The earlier one we've already reported and shown the kind of massive damage. Now we cannot be reporting on the number of deaths, and we're only being very, very careful about what we're putting out, but the numbers could really go up should we get information about the exact area and whether if it involves any of the refugee camps.
Oh no, absolutely. We're absolutely careful about the kind of information that we're putting out at the moment, because there is preliminary information that is coming in. Geeta, continue to be with us. It's time now for a very short commercial break on these deadly visuals that are coming in. Lots more on the other side.
You are watching India Today.
This 8-year-old differently abled student of a government school in UP has brought glory to his city, Bahraich. Whoever says disability can slow you down should look up to this little one. Divyansh, who is more than 40% disabled in his legs, created a record by doing Shirshasana continuously for 44.1 minutes in the G20 Yogasan Record 2023 program.
पारवेज शर्मा सर और मैं 2 घंटा करता हूँ, पढ़ाई भी करता हूँ और प्रैक्टिस करके भी डीएम सर को हराऊंगा।
क्या बनना चाहते हो?
IAS।
His teachers were equally joyous as Divyansh bagged his name in Yogasan Book of World Records.
इन बच्चों को स्वयं से और कोच बुला करके महीने में 2 बार या 3 बार इनको कोचिंग देते हैं और इसी कोचिंग के बल पर बच्चे हमारे म्यूजिकल योगा में भी आगे हैं और सामान्य योगा भी ढंग से करते हैं।
कर्नाटका संतों, ऋषियों, मनीषियों की भूमि है। आध्यात्म, ज्ञान विज्ञान की महान भारतीय परंपरा को कर्नाटका ने हमेशा सशक्त किया है। इसमें भी तुमकुरु का विशेष स्थान है। सिद्धगंगा मठ की इसमें बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है। पूज्य शिवकुमार स्वामी जी ने त्रिविधा दसोही यानी अन्ना, अक्षरा और आश्रय की जो विरासत छोड़ी, उसे आज श्री सिद्धलिंगा महास्वामी जी आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। मैं पूज्य संतों को नमन करता हूं। गुब्बी स्थित श्री चिदंबरा आश्रम और भगवान चन्न बसवेश्वर को भी मैं प्रणाम करता हूं। भाइयों और बहनों, संतों के आशीर्वाद से आज कर्नाटका के युवाओं को रोजगार देने वाले, ग्रामीणों और महिलाओं को सुविधा देने वाले, देश की सेना और मेड इन इंडिया को ताकत देने वाले सैकड़ों करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट्स का लोकार्पण और शिलान्यास हुआ है। आज देश की एक बहुत बड़ी हेलीकॉप्टर फैक्ट्री तुमकुर को मिली है। आज तुमकुरु इंडस्ट्रियल टाउनशिप का शिलान्यास भी हुआ है और इसके साथ साथ तुमकुरु जिले के सैकड़ों गांवों को पीने के पानी की स्कीमों पर भी काम शुरू हुआ है और मैं इसके लिए आप सबको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, कर्नाटका युवा टैलेंट, युवा इनोवेशन की धरती है। ड्रोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग से लेकर तेजस फाइटर प्लेन बनाने तक कर्नाटका के मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर की ताकत को दुनिया देख रही है। डबल इंजन सरकार ने कर्नाटका को निवेशकों की पहली पसंद बनाया है। डबल इंजन सरकार कैसे काम करती है, इसका उदाहरण आज जिस हेलीकॉप्टर कारखाने का लोकार्पण हुआ है वो भी है। साल 2016 में एक संकल्प के साथ मुझे इसके शिलान्यास का सौभाग्य मिला था और संकल्प ये था कि हमें अपनी रक्षा जरूरतों के लिए विदेशों पर निर्भरता को कम से कम करते जाना है। मुझे खुशी है कि आज सैकड़ों ऐसे हथियार और रक्षा उपकरण जो भारत में ही बन रहे हैं, जो हमारी सेनाएं उपयोग कर रही है। आज आधुनिक असॉल्ट राइफल से लेकर टैंक, तोप, नौसेना के लिए एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर, हेलीकॉप्टर, फाइटर जेट, ट्रांसपोर्ट एयरक्राफ्ट, सब कुछ भारत खुद बना रहा है। – 2014 से पहले के ये आंकड़ा याद रखना, याद रखोगे? 2014 से पहले के 15 सालों में जितना निवेश एरोस्पेस सेक्टर में हुआ उसका 5 गुना बीते 8-9 वर्षों में हो चुका है। आज हम अपनी सेना को मेड इन इंडिया हथियार तो दे ही रहे हैं, बल्कि हमारा डिफेंस एक्सपोर्ट भी 2014 की तुलना में कई गुना ज्यादा हो गया है। आने वाले समय में यहां तुमकुरू में ही सैकड़ों हेलीकॉप्टर बनने वाले हैं और इससे लगभग 4 लाख करोड़ रुपए का बिजनेस यहां होगा। जब इस प्रकार मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की फैक्ट्रियां लगती हैं तो हमारी सेना की ताकत तो बढ़ती ही है। हजारों रोजगार और स्वरोजगार के अवसर भी मिलते हैं। तुमकुरू के हेलीकॉप्टर कारखाने से यहां आसपास अनेक छोटे छोटे उद्योगों को, व्यापार कारोबार को भी बल मिलेगा। साथियों, जब नेशन फर्स्ट, राष्ट्र प्रथम, इस भावना से काम होता है तो सफलता भी जरूर मिलती है। बीते 8 वर्षों में हमने एक तरफ सरकारी फैक्ट्रियां, सरकारी डिफेंस कंपनियों के कामकाज में सुधार किया, उनको ताकतवर बनाया, वहीं दूसरी तरफ प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए भी दरवाजे खोले। इससे कितना लाभ हुआ वो हम HAL हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक लिमिटेड में भी देख रहे हैं। और मैं कुछ सालों पहले की चीजें आज याद कराना चाहता हूं। मीडिया वालों का भी जरूर ध्यान जाएगा। यही HAL है जिसे बहाना बनाकर हमारी सरकार पर तरह तरह के झूठे आरोप लगाए गए। यही HAL है जिसका नाम लेकर लोगों को भड़काने की साजिश रची गई, लोगों को उकसाया गया, पार्लियामेंट के घंटे से घंटे तबाह कर दिए। लेकिन मेरे प्यारे भाइयों बहनों, झूठ कितना ही बड़ा क्यों न हो, कितनी ही बार बोला जाता हो, कितने ही बड़े लोगों से बोला जाता हो, लेकिन एक न एक दिन वो सच के सामने हारता ही है। आज HAL की ये हेलीकॉप्टर फैक्ट्री, HAL की बढ़ती ताकत ढेर सारे पुराने झूठों को और झूठे आरोप लगाने वालों का पर्दाफाश कर रही है। हकीकत खुद बोल रही है। आज वही HAL भारत की सेनाओं के लिए आधुनिक तेजस बना रहा है, विश्व के आकर्षण का केंद्र है। आज HAL डिफेंस सेक्टर में भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता को बल दे रहा है। साथियों, आज यहां तुमकुरू इंडस्ट्रियल टाउनशिप के लिए भी काम शुरू हुआ है। फूड पार्क, हेलीकॉप्टर कारखाने के बाद तुमकुरू को मिला एक और बड़ा उपहार है। जो ये नया इंडस्ट्रियल टाउनशिप होगा, इससे तुमकुरू कर्नाटका के ही नहीं बल्कि भारत के एक बड़े औद्योगिक केंद्र के रूप में विकसित होगा। ये चेन्नई बेंगलुरु इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर का हिस्सा है। इस समय चेन्नई बेंगलुरु, बेंगलुरु मुंबई और हैदराबाद बेंगलुरु इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर पर काम चल रहा है। इन सभी में कर्नाटका का एक बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा आता है। मुझे इस बात की भी खुशी है कि तुमकुरू इंडस्ट्रियल टाउनशिप का निर्माण PM गति शक्ति नेशनल मास्टर प्लान के तहत हो रहा है। मुंबई चेन्नई हाईवे, बेंगलुरु एयरपोर्ट, तुमकुरू रेलवे स्टेशन, मंगलुरु पोर्ट और गैस कनेक्टिविटी, ऐसी मल्टी मॉडल कनेक्टिविटी से इसे जोड़ा जा रहा है। इससे यहां बहुत बड़ी संख्या में रोजगार और स्वरोजगार बनने वाले हैं। साथियों, डबल इंजन की सरकार का जितना ध्यान फिजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर है, उतना ही हम सोशल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी जोड़ दे रहे हैं। बीते वर्षों में हमने निवास के नीरू, भूमि के नीरावरी यानी हर घर जल, हर खेत को पानी को प्राथमिकता दी है। आज पूरे देश में पीने के पानी के नेटवर्क का अभूतपूर्व विस्तार हो रहा है। इस वर्ष जल जीवन मिशन के लिए बजट में पिछले वर्ष की तुलना में 20,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक की वृद्धि की गई है। जब हर घर जल पहुंचता है तो इसका सबसे बड़ा लाभ गरीब महिलाओं और छोटी बेटियों को ही होता है। उन्हें साफ पानी जुटाने के लिए गांवों से दूर नहीं जाना पड़ता। पिछले 3.5 वर्षों में देश में नल से जल का दायरा 3 करोड़ ग्रामीण परिवारों से बढ़कर के 11 करोड़ परिवार हो चुका है। हमारी सरकार निवासक के नीरू के साथ ही भूमि की नीरावरी पर भी लगातार बल दे रही है। बजट में अपर भद्रा प्रोजेक्ट के लिए लगभग 5,500 करोड़ रुपए की व्यवस्था की गई है। इससे तुमकुरू, चिकमंगलुरु, चित्रदुर्ग और दावणगेरे सहित सेंट्रल कर्नाटका के बड़े सूखा प्रभावित क्षेत्र को लाभ होगा। ये हर खेत और हर घर तक पानी पहुंचाने के डबल इंजन सरकार की प्रतिबद्धता को दिखाता है। इसका बहुत बड़ा लाभ हमारे छोटे किसानों को होगा, जो खेती के लिए सिंचाई के पानी पर, वर्षा के पानी पर ही निर्भर रहते आए हैं। साथियों, इस साल के गरीब हितैषी, मध्यम वर्ग हितैषी बजट की चर्चा पूरी दुनिया में हो रही है। विकसित भारत के निर्माण के लिए सब जुड़े, सब जुटे, सबका प्रयास कैसे हो, इसके लिए ये बजट बहुत ताकत देने वाला है। जब भारत अपनी आजादी के 100 वर्ष मनाएगा, उस सशक्त भारत की नींव इस बार के बजट ने और मजबूत की है। ये बजट समर्थ भारत, संपन्न भारत, स्वयंपूर्ण भारत, शक्तिमान भारत, गतिमान भारत की दिशा में बहुत बड़ा कदम है। आजादी के इस अमृत काल में कर्तव्यों पर चलते हुए विकसित भारत के संकल्पों को सिद्ध करने में इस बजट का बड़ा योगदान है। गांव, गरीब, किसान, वंचित, आदिवासी, मध्यम वर्ग, महिला, युवा, वरिष्ठ जन सबके लिए बड़े बड़े फैसले इस बजट में लिए गए हैं। ये सर्वप्रिय बजट है, सर्वहितकारी बजट है, सर्वसमावेशी बजट है, सर्वसुखाकारी बजट है, सर्वस्पर्शी बजट है। ये भारत के युवा को रोजगार के नए अवसर देने वाला बजट है। ये भारत की नारी शक्ति की भागीदारी बढ़ाने वाला बजट है। ये भारत की कृषि को, गांव को आधुनिक बनाने वाला बजट है। ये श्री अन्न से छोटे किसानों को वैश्विक ताकत देने वाला बजट है। ये भारत में रोजगार बढ़ाने वाला और स्वरोजगार को बल देने वाला बजट है। हमने आवश्यकते आधारा मत्तु अदाया, यानी आपकी जरूरतों, आपको दी जाने वाली सहायता और आपकी आय, तीनों का ध्यान रखा है। कर्नाटका के हर परिवार को इससे लाभ मिलेगा। भाइयों और बहनों, 2014 के बाद से सरकार का प्रयास समाज के उस वर्ग को सशक्त करने का रहा है जिन्हें पहले सरकारी सहायता मिलनी बहुत मुश्किल होती थी। इस वर्ग तक सरकारी योजनाएं या तो पहुंचती ही नहीं थी या फिर वो बिचौलियों के हाथों लूट जाता था। आप देखिए, बीते वर्षों में हमने हर उस वर्ग तक सरकारी सहायता पहुंचाई है जो पहले इससे वंचित थे। हमारी सरकार में कार्मिक, श्रमिक, ऐसे हर वर्ग को पहली बार पेंशन और बीमा की सुविधा मिली है। हमारी सरकार ने छोटे किसान की सहायता के लिए उसे पीएम किसान सम्मान निधि की शक्ति दी है। रेहड़ी, ठेले, फुटपाथ पर काम करने वाले स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स को हमने पहली बार बैंकों से बिना गारंटी का ऋण दिलाया है। इस वर्ष का बजट इसी भावना को आगे बढ़ाता है। पहली बार हमारे विश्वकर्मा बहनों भाइयों के लिए भी देश में एक योजना बनी है। विश्वकर्मा यानी हमारे वो साथी जो अपने हाथ के कौशल से, हाथ से चलने वाले किसी औजार की मदद से कुछ निर्माण करते हैं, सृजन करते हैं, स्वरोजगार को बढ़ावा देते हैं। जैसे हमारे कुंभारा, कम्मारा, अक्कसालिगा, शिल्पी, गोरे के लसदवा, बड़गी आदि जो हमारे सब साथी हैं, पीएम विकास योजना से अब ऐसे लाखों परिवारों को उनकी कला, उनके कौशल को और समृद्ध करने में मदद मिलेगी। साथियों, इस वैश्विक महामारी के समय में राशन पर होने वाले खर्च की चिंता से भी हमारी सरकार ने गरीब परिवारों को मुक्त रख रखा है। इस योजना पर हमारी सरकार 4 लाख करोड़ रुपए से अधिक खर्च कर चुकी है। गांवों में हर गरीब परिवार को पक्का घर देने के लिए बजट में अभूतपूर्व 70,000 करोड़ रुपए रखे गए हैं। इससे कर्नाटका के अनेक गरीब परिवारों को पक्का घर मिलेगा, जिंदगी बदल जाएगी। भाई और बहनों, इस बजट में मिडिल क्लास के हित में अभूतपूर्व फैसले लिए गए हैं। 7 लाख रुपए तक की आय पर इनकम टैक्स 0 होने से मिडिल क्लास में बहुत उत्साह है। विशेष रूप से 30 वर्ष से कम के युवा साथी जिनकी नौकरी नई है, बिजनेस नया है, उनके अकाउंट में हर महीने अधिक पैसों की बचत होने वाली है। इतना ही नहीं, जो रिटायर हुए कर्मचारी है, जो हमारे सीनियर सिटीजन है, वरिष्ठ नागरिक है, उनके लिए डिपॉजिट की लिमिट को 15 लाख से बढ़ाकर 30 लाख यानी 2 गुना कर दिया है। इससे उन्हें हर महीने मिलने वाला रिटर्न और बढ़ जाएगा। प्राइवेट सेक्टर में काम करने वाले साथियों के लिए लीव एनकैशमेंट पर टैक्स की छूट लंबे समय से सिर्फ 3 लाख रुपए थी, अब 25 लाख रुपए तक के लीव एनकैशमेंट को टैक्स फ्री कर दिया गया है। इससे तुमकुरू, बेंगलुरु सहित कर्नाटका और देश के लाखों परिवारों के पास ज्यादा पैसा आएगा। साथियों, हमारी देश की महिलाओं का वित्तीय समावेश भाजपा सरकार की सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकताओं में से एक है। महिलाओं का वित्तीय समावेश घरों में उनकी आवाज मजबूत करता है, घर के निर्णयों में उनकी भागीदारी बढ़ाता है। हमारी माताएं, बहनें, बेटियां ज्यादा से ज्यादा बैंकों से जुड़े, इसके लिए इस बजट में हमने बड़े बड़े कदम उठाए हैं। हम महिला सम्मान बचत पत्र लेकर आए हैं। इसमें बहनें 2 लाख रुपए तक का निवेश कर सकती हैं, जिस पर सबसे अधिक 7.5% ब्याज मिलेगा। ये परिवार और समाज में महिलाओं की भूमिका को और बढ़ाएगा। सुकन्या समृद्धि, जनधन बैंक खातों, मुद्रा ऋण और घर देने के बाद ये महिला आर्थिक सशक्तिकरण के लिए एक और बड़ी पहल है। गांवों में महिला सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप के सामर्थ्य को और बढ़ाने के लिए भी बजट में अहम फैसला लिया गया है। भाइयों और बहनों, ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था पर इस बजट में सबसे अधिक फोकस है। किसानों को कदम कदम पर डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी से मदद हो या सहकारिता का विस्तार, इस पर बहुत फोकस है। इससे किसानों, पशुपालकों और मछुआरों सभी को लाभ होगा। गन्ने से जुड़ी सहकारी समितियों को विशेष मदद मिलने से कर्नाटका के गन्ना किसानों को बहुत लाभ होगा। आने वाले समय में अनेक नई सहकारी समितियां भी बनेगी और अनाज की स्टोरेज के लिए देश भर में बड़ी संख्या में स्टोर बनेंगे। इससे छोटे किसान भी अपना अनाज स्टोर कर पाएंगे और बेहतर कीमत मिलने पर बेच पाएंगे। यही नहीं, प्राकृतिक खेती से छोटे किसान की लागत कम हो, इसके लिए हजारों सहायता केंद्र भी बनाए जा रहे हैं। साथियों, कर्नाटका में आप सभी मिलेट्स, मोटे अनाज का महत्व बखूबी समझते हैं। इसलिए मोटे अनाजों को आप सभी पहले से सिरी धान्य कहते हैं। अब कर्नाटका के लोगों की इसी भावना को देश आगे बढ़ा रहा है। अब पूरे देश में मोटे अनाज को श्री अन्न की पहचान दी गई है। श्री अन्न यानी धान्य में सर्वश्रेष्ठ। कर्नाटका में तो श्री अन्न रागी, श्री अन्न नवणे, श्री अन्न सामे, श्री अन्न हरका, श्री अन्न कोरले, श्री अन्न उदलू, श्री अन्न बरगू, श्री अन्न सज्जे, श्री अन्न बीड़ी जोड़ा। किसान ऐसे अनेक श्री अन्न पैदा करता है। कर्नाटका के रागी मुद्दे, रागी रोटी, इस स्वाद को कौन भूल सकता है। इस साल के बजट में श्री अन्न के उत्पादन पर भी बहुत बल दिया गया है। इसका लाभ कर्नाटका के सूखा प्रभावित क्षेत्रों के छोटे छोटे किसानों को सबसे अधिक लाभ होगा। साथियों, डबल इंजन सरकार के ईमानदार प्रयासों के कारण आज भारत के नागरिक का विश्वास बुलंदी पर है, आत्मविश्वास बुलंदी पर है। हम हर देशवासी का जीवन सुरक्षित करने के लिए, भविष्य समृद्ध करने के लिए दिन रात मेहनत कर रहे हैं। आपका निरंतर आशीर्वाद ही हम सभी के लिए ऊर्जा है, हमारी प्रेरणा है। एक बार फिर आप सभी को बजट और आज तुमकुरू में जो विकास के प्रोजेक्ट का लोकार्पण और शिलान्यास हुआ है, इसके लिए मैं बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। आप आज इतनी बड़ी तादाद में यहां आए हैं, हमें आशीर्वाद दे रहे हैं। मैं आप सबका भी हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। धन्यवाद।
The Prime Minister inaugurating India's biggest helicopter factory, but pretty much making a speech crafted for the upcoming Karnataka election. The Prime Minister has adapted this event once again for this upcoming election in Karnataka. He's reached out and connected Modi style with the public in Karnataka for the upcoming election. He not only spoke about job creation and HAL's brand new factory, but also took potshots at Rahul Gandhi over Rafale politics, and then extended into the many welfare schemes and budget announcements that will impact Karnataka. But the big takeaway from the first half of the Prime Minister's speech is the Prime Minister's first big attack on Rahul Gandhi over his Rafale politics of 2019. The Prime Minister spent several minutes attacking the Congress and Rahul Gandhi, saying that they used HAL's good name for their dirty politics, and this new factory in Tumakuru near Bengaluru is a slap in the face of all those who tried to tarnish HAL's good name for their personal politics and in order to tarnish Prime Minister Modi's image as well. Take a listen to what the Prime Minister has said. Remember, Rahul Gandhi in 2019 had alleged that Prime Minister Modi had neglected HAL, sidelined HAL in order to award the fruits of the Rafale deal to private sector companies, which has turned out to be completely incorrect and false. Take a look at what the Prime Minister has just said.
यही HAL है जिसे बहाना बनाकर हमारी सरकार पर तरह तरह के झूठे आरोप लगाए गए हैं। यही HAL है जिसका नाम लेकर लोगों को भड़काने की साजिश रची गई, लोगों को उकसाया गया, पार्लियामेंट के घंटे से घंटे तबाह कर दिए। लेकिन मेरे प्यारे भाइयों बहनों, झूठ कितना ही बड़ा क्यों न हो, कितनी ही बार बोला जाता हो, कितने ही बड़े लोगों से बोला जाता हो, लेकिन एक न एक दिन वो सच के सामने हारता ही है।
Let's go across to India Today's Gaurav Sawant joining me live. Gaurav, Prime Minister taking an unusually direct swipe at Rahul Gandhi, over the politics that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party had played to the hilt over HAL back during the 2019 campaign.
Shiv, you and I have covered the Rafale journey right from its inception to the aircraft now flying with the Indian Air Force and all the delays, all the air pockets that the deal hit. Now, when it came to HAL, there was an issue in terms of why HAL could not manufacture, who would take guarantees for the HAL manufactured Rafale aircraft, and that is why the deal got stuck. Whereas politics on that subject, and Rahul Gandhi or the Congress party targeted the Narendra Modi government, saying that they didn't give the contract to HAL but gave it to private sector instead to benefit, as Rahul Gandhi continues to say in another context, hum do hamare do, that only select industries are being benefited, or industrial houses or corporate houses are being benefited. That's the allegation. The Prime Minister says those were lies, half-truths, absolute lies and rumors. Look at HAL today. HAL is manufacturing. HAL is able to deliver this in context, of course, of the light utility helicopter.
Right.
And this huge base that has come up in Tumkuru, 615 acres for the manufacture of the LUH and other heptas subsequently.
Stay with me, Gaurav. Shehzad Poonawala of the BJP also with me. Shehzad, very direct attack by the Prime Minister. It doesn't take Rahul Gandhi's name, but, pretty clear who he's talking about when he says that those who tried to use and misuse HAL's name, today they've gotten a slap in their face.
Absolutely, and as Gaurav was rightly pointing out, it was actually the failure on the part of the UPA government at that time, which was known for its indecision, that they couldn't resolve the issues that were there between HAL and Dassault. And therefore, because of their inefficiency, incapacity, HAL had to suffer. Look at the fact, like Gaurav rightly mentioned, today HAL is manufacturing and producing. The capacity to produce Tejas has increased. 20,000 crores, if I remember correctly, has been allocated to enhance its production capacity for the LCAs. So this has been done under the Modi government, and all the allegations that were made for the Rafales, all of them were tested at the annual of a court, and the court of law held that there was no corruption, but yet the Congress party continued to peddle lies. In fact, they said that the Supreme Court said Chaukidar Chor hai in context of the Rafale verdict. Rahul Gandhi had to apologize, and just like that, the lies about HAL was also peddled by Rahul Gandhi, and all those lies have been exposed time after time by the highest courts of the land. The fact of the that, Rajniti above Rashtra-niti has been the foremost policy of the Congress party, and therefore, whether it's the surgical strike, the Balakot airstrike, the procurement of Rafales, procurements of various other equipment for our military, even purchased for 9 years, the CDS wasn't put in place, the National War Memorial wasn't commissioned or done, OROP was left hanging. This is the legacy that the UPA gave us during the tenure, and this is how they treated the armed forces of this country and how they treated the government enterprises of this country. Today that has completely changed, and HAL is proudly managing the Tejas aircraft.
And just to also share with our viewers, Shehzad and Gaurav, and we're trying to get a reaction in from the Congress also, in 2019, at the peak of this entire Rafale HAL politics that Rahul Gandhi was leading as part of the 2019 campaign, at the Aero India show in February 2019, I had put a direct question to the HAL chairman of the time saying, does he share the, perception or the allegation, or to comment on what Rahul Gandhi was alleging, that HAL had been neglected, HAL had been sidelined and deprived of, this hugely lucrative deal. And he said it was inaccurate and he did not share that perception. So whichever way you look at it, what Rahul Gandhi had alleged at that time vis-a-vis HAL was most definitely false. It betrayed a complete lack of understanding of the structure of that particular deal as well. But that's separate. Those are facts that Gaurav and I had brought out at that time as well. But this time, it is about the politics of it. And also, Gaurav, to bring you in back on this, the politics that were played at that time, must have had a cascading, damaging effect. Already India's defense procurement, defense development procedures are extremely slow, but the vicious and ill-informed politics that was played over HAL at that time, must have had some kind of an impact.
It indeed did, and it does, unfortunately. Shiv, you're absolutely right. India...
Gaurav, apologies for interrupting you. Coming back to you in just a moment. Nasir Hussain of the Congress Party, Member of Parliament, is with us. Nasir ji, thank you for speaking to India today. Your reaction, sir, to the Prime Minister taking a pretty direct pot shot at the Congress Party and Rahul Gandhi over, HAL politics that were played, he says, in 2019.
See, I think now because of the Adani scam, because of the SBI LIC investment scam that has happened in the country, they are now forced to speak about so many things of the past. And while coming to Rafale, I would like to again reiterate the Congress stand, and I would again like to remind the viewers of your channel that Rafale was an issue which was not investigated. Rafale is an issue which is still not investigated. Rafale is an issue where the country that has given more money to buy the jets has not investigated the issue or has not inquired into the issue, but the country which got more money in a deal are investigating that issue. This is something which is laughable. Even now, the country which got more money while selling their product is investigating the issue. But the country which has given more money is not investigating the issue. See, this is something which this government has followed.
Okay.
We investigated the issue, 2G scam, and now their own CBI court has come out very clear on this scam that the opposition at that time, that is BJP, made an issue out of a non-issue. But now, whether it is the Adani scam or the Rafale, this government doesn't want to inquire into it. Even now, for the Adani scam, we are very clear that there should be a JPC and the JPC should inquire into it.
Okay. Thank you, Nasser Hussain, for speaking to India Today. The Congress sticking to its guns as far as the so-called Rafale scam is concerned. Well, the occasion where this political attack happened was a landmark milestone for Indian aviation today. A new helicopter facility, 615 acres large, inaugurated by the Prime Minister for Hindustan Aeronautics Limited in Tumakuru near Bengaluru. It is India's largest helicopter manufacturing facility and will initially produce light utility helicopters. The factory will be augmented to produce other helicopters such as light combat helicopters Prachand and the future Indian multi-role helicopters which will replace the workhorse Mi-17s. It will also be used for maintenance, repair and overhaul of the entire gamut of military helicopters currently serving with the Indian Armed Forces. This makes it one of Asia's biggest ever helicopter facilities. It will undoubtedly boost aerospace manufacturing and the ecosystem in Karnataka, producing thousands of jobs.
लाइट यूटिलिटी हेलीकॉप्टर की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी का उद्घाटन किया गया है। यह निश्चित ही साथियों, यह निश्चित ही रक्षा क्षेत्र के साथ साथ संपूर्ण राष्ट्र के लिए बड़े ही गौरव का विषय है। स्वयं प्रधानमंत्री जी के कर कमलों द्वारा इस फैसिलिटी का शिलान्यास और आपके ही कर कमलों के द्वारा इसका उद्घाटन देश में डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के प्रति आपके कमिटमेंट का एक बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण है। यह उद्घाटन रक्षा क्षेत्र की आत्मनिर्भरता की यात्रा में एक माइलस्टोन है। इस ऐतिहासिक अवसर पर मैं हिंदुस्तान एरोनॉटिक्स लिमिटेड, इस प्रोजेक्ट से जुड़े सभी लोगों और संगठन समेत समस्त राष्ट्र को अपनी ओर से हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं।
Now, the factory is formally on. The first light utility helicopter, which you see the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister standing next to, will be handed over to the Army at the Aero India trade show, which kicks off in Bengaluru at the end of this week. The LUH is required in large numbers, nearly 200, and those will all be built at this new facility. The Prachand light combat helicopter will also be manufactured at this same factory. Now, this particular factory has a maximum annual capacity of between 30 to 90 light utility helicopters. The overall military requirement in India for light utility helicopters is 400. Now, the requirement for light utility helicopters manufactured by HAL is 187. But the current orders for the LUH is only 12, a measly 12 light utility helicopters, which means that in this year alone, the order shortfall for light utility helicopters is anywhere between 18 to 78 helicopters, depending on which frame of reference you're using. That makes the overall shortfall of light utility helicopters 175, and there is reason to believe that the government is going to accelerate the orders on this front very, very soon. But there are big questions to ask, and we will ask those here on India Today. Number one, when will this factory that's been inaugurated by the Prime Minister get enough orders to justify its large size and scale? Number two, why haven't India's armed forces ordered the light utility helicopter and light combat helicopter in large enough numbers, respectable numbers? What is this 15 and 12 helicopters? It's nothing. Will this facility make India fully self-reliant in military helicopters? That's a tall order, but this facility will play a part. When will India have its own helicopter engine? We're building helicopters, but the engine is from France. When will we have our own helicopter engine? Can current import efforts of helicopters be scrapped in the foreseeable future, thanks to what is going to come out of this particular factory? So it's an interesting dilemma for the Indian Armed Forces, but a very promising start as far as Atmanirbhar Bharat in military helicopters is concerned. Now, the endless search for replacement helicopters, the LUH that we're talking about that's going to be made here, is basically to replace hundreds of Cheetah and Chetak, vintage helicopters that are even now in service with our armed forces. The Indian Army has been trying to replace these helicopters for nearly 2 decades now. Experts have opined repeatedly that it is time to retire the Chetak and the Cheetah because they are simply of an older generation. But to this day, the quest remains unfulfilled. Here's the reality check.
The most numerous helicopters in the Indian Army, the light utility Cheetah and Chetaks, purchased decades ago from France and then built in India by HAL. These helicopters have served as the backbone of the aerial logistics fleet. But would you believe it if we told you that the Indian Army has been looking to replace these for nearly 2 decades. You heard that right, nearly 2 decades. It was in the early 2000s that the Army began planning for a procurement that would replace these aging helicopters. After considering a variety of helicopters in the first decade of the new millennium, the Army formally floated a tender in 2007. The Indian Army zeroed in on 2 types. The French Eurocopter AS-550 Fennec and the Russian Kamau Ka-2260. But after nearly 5 years of trials, in 2012, the contest was scrapped and rebooted amidst a cloud of controversy. Nearly a decade down the drain. The contest was then restarted with the hope of a decision. A full 3 years later, amazingly, the contest was scrapped again. Once more, in the cloud of controversy. But this time, the Army pushed for a decision, and the Indian government bit the bullet. In 2015, the Russian Ka-2260 was chosen for a Make in India program. The plan was for 200 helicopters to be jointly built by Russia and India's Hindustan Aeronautics. Most of them at a facility near Bengaluru. But 6 agonizing years later, not only has the production not started, the final work share agreement itself has not been signed. As always, it's the Army that's paying the price. Light helicopters flown by Army aviation pilots are crucial for India's efforts to maintain a force of nearly 3,000 soldiers in the Himalayan heights. They're deployed on posts strung along Saltoro Ridge, which at over 20,000 feet is the world's highest battlefield manned by India since 1984. The Army's fleet of 1970s vintage Cheetah helicopter supplies its troops with ammunition, rations and fuel for warmth. The Army's struggle to replace them continues without end. A bulk of the Army's fleet of 120 Cheetahs has long crossed their structural unity of 4,500 hours of flight time and a 1,750-hour engine life. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which has licensed produced the Cheetah and the Chetak from France since the late 1970s, say it is becoming difficult to service the aging machines because of a lack of spares. The Army says it has no option but to rely on these vintage machines because it has been unable to buy replacements in time. But could the answer to the army's woes be right here in the country?
Well, as the Prime Minister inaugurated Asia's biggest chopper factory in Tumkur today, it was back in 2019 when India Today got you this first-hand experience of what it's like to be in the cockpit of a Prachand, India's first indigenously built light combat helicopter that will also be built at the factory that's just been inaugurated by the Prime Minister. The first time ever, that's me in the cockpit, a journalist flying the Prachand for the first time. Take a look. Say namaste to the light combat helicopter. Developed and test flown for nearly a decade by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the light combat helicopter is not just made in India, but custom built for India's unique battlefield conditions. From the deserts of Rajasthan to the super high altitudes of Ladakh. But what better way to get acquainted with the light combat helicopter than by taking a spin in one? I was invited by HAL's test team to strap into this helicopter and get a never-before taste of what this Swadeshi combat chopper is truly all about. India Today has been invited to be the first journalist team to fly in and experience the light combat helicopter developed and tested by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. This is India's first attack helicopters. It has missiles, it has rockets, it has guns, and we happen to be the first ever media crew who's going to get a taste of the light combat helicopter. For a flight in the LCH, I have to get into the full pilot kit. From overalls to flying boots. Joined by HAL test pilot Wing Commander Subhash John, we walk out onto the airfield to the waiting helicopter, soaking in the unforgiving Bengaluru sun. And it is here that I receive a crucial part of the flying experience I'm about to have. A combat flying helmet equipped with a helmet-mounted sight. An electro-optical system used by pilots to point various weapons at their targets. But more on that in just a bit. First, the inside of the light combat helicopter itself. Constructed with a sleek tandem cockpit rather than the usual side-by-side seats on other helicopter types, the LCH from the outside sports a stealthy front profile that also gives adversaries a smaller, harder target to latch onto. Wing Commander Subhash and I belt up, and then the engines come on. The rumble of the twin Shakti turboshaft engines come to life, rapidly turning the rotors into a steady chop. The helicopter is now ready to taxi out. With all checks done and cleared by air traffic control, the LCH gently lifts off. In airspace over Bengaluru, the light combat helicopter is put through a series of maneuvers, demonstrating its agility in the air and carefully customized flying qualities. The effortless handling that Wing Commander Subhash demonstrates at low altitude validates the years of tough flight testing that has gone into refining the LCH into the flying machine it is today. Returning to the tarmac after a 25-minute flight, I've just had the most personal possible tryst with an aircraft that stands on the threshold of Indian military service. And coming up next on 5 Live, I'm going to give you my take on something that happened over the weekend. Parvez Musharraf's death. It looks like there are a lot of people here in India who've been praising him while expressing their condolences. I'm going to be replying to them.
I propose to increase the rebate limit to 7 lakhs.
Yet again, the nation trusts India Today TV. Highest concurrent users during the Budget 2023 speech. Most watched news channel on YouTube live. India Today #1.
Meant to provide comfort and safety, women turn to sanitary pads in those difficult days of a month. But sanitary pads are not all that safe, is what the study has found. Environmental watchdog Toxic Links has found that all popular sanitary napkins sold in India, whether organic or synthetic, contain high amounts of chemicals, prompting various diseases. These chemicals can even cause infertility. The study has found the presence of several phthalates, chemicals that can harm reproductive and neurological organs. Another finding suggests that sanitary napkins also contain volatile organic compounds that can cause paralysis and memory loss.
The health impact of these chemicals are pretty well known, and in spite of that, these chemicals were present in all products that we tested. And that's, as I said, that's the cause of worry. In absence of proper standards in India, these were some of the leading brands that we tested.
What then is the way out? Sanitary napkins are essential commodities. What should you use then?
Even in our study, we haven't really tested all kinds of products. We've tested 10 pads, which contain organic as well as inorganic. But I think there is, that's why there is a lot of stress that we're putting on getting standards which are across menstrual products, not just for sanitary pads, but for all kinds of menstrual products.
Over 90% of women in India use disposable sanitary napkins, and the harmful effects can't be ignored anymore. You can switch to products like menstruation cup, which is reusable and is a one-time investment. Other alternatives are tampons. Different sizes of tampons are available in the market depending upon the flow of the blood during periods. So do your bit to keep yourself from falling prey to toxic chemicals out there.
As a ground controller, the occasion of doing this episode of Battle Cry is a sad one. There has been a mid-air collision, we understand, in the Indian Air Force where, one pilot was tragically lost. We also do know that mid-air collisions are a rare occurrence because there are many safeguards. But as a ground controller, can you tell us, what are the things that are done to avoid mid-air collisions and why do they still happen?
Okay, thank you for the question, Shiv. So firstly, the main aim of any air traffic controller is to provide separation between aircraft and prevent the collision between two aircraft.
Yes.
So when we talk about separation, the separation is both given in air as well as on ground. Now, because we are talking about mid-air collision here, I will tell you about the separation that is given in air is both vertical and horizontal separation. With that, there is something known as a timed separation also. So at one point, you will never find any two aircrafts which are reciprocal to each other within 30 nautical miles on the same route or on the same level. But at the same time, depending upon the situation, you can say the type of aircraft, the capability, weather, the mission, etc., the separation also keeps differing.
Yes.
And another thing here important is that as an air traffic controller, it is important thing for me that we maintain always a two-way communication. A radio communication is established between the aircraft flying in the air as well as the air traffic control tower. Now, coming up to the second question that you asked me, that why do these mid-air collisions occur? I would like to tell you that it's a one odd situation. It all depends. I would say that there are no specific same reasons for a mid-air collision to occur. The reasons are completely different as it's completely situational based.
Yes.
Today, the aviation industry has boomed so much. The quantum of flying has also increased, and so has been the stress on the material as well as the men. So when I talk about civil aviation here, you would know that the last mid-air collision which took place in India was in 1996, Turkey, Dadri, and where we had two civil airliners colliding into each other. But now let me take you a little bit towards military aviation. Now, military aviation is completely dynamic because the operational necessity will always overrule the general rules of air.
Yes.
Because here the missions are dictating the flying norms here. Now, having said that, the sophisticated avionics we have, the absolutely amazing training of the pilots, the maintenance practices, and even the checks and balances in place, no two incidents are similar here.
And finally, viewer, how contaminated, how morally rotten, how dishonorable and desperate must an Indian be to praise Parvez Musharraf? Well, thankfully there aren't many, but there are two of note who've used their high-profile energies to sing eulogies for the departed Pakistani dictator. The illustrious and influential Shashi Tharoor, who has labelled Musharraf a force for peace, and Mehbooba Mufti, who praises Musharraf as the only general who wanted a solution to the Kashmir issue. I believe condolences are always a good thing. Both Tharoor and Mufti are also entitled to their opinions. But what all of us should have a problem with is the fact that their claims are both laughably false as well as dangerous. And I'll tell you why. Using the cloud of emotion following a public figure's death to showboat your broad-mindedness and munificence is fine. But it stops being fine when your words fly completely in the face of facts that Indian citizens have literally died for to persuade the world about Pakistan's ways. Force for peace, says Tharoor. Well, under Musharraf, as Pakistan's all-powerful military dictator, here are the wonderfully forceful peace gestures that Musharraf sent us. The Parliament attack in December 2001, the attack on the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly in October 2001, the Mumbai train bombings in July 2006, the attack on the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru in December 2005, the Delhi bombings in October 2005, the UP attack in July 2005, the Udhampur attack in August 2015, the Pune bomb blast in August 2012. And he was dictator till barely months before the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai, presiding over the establishment that funded and trained Ajmal Amir Kasab and his band of terrorists. Musharraf was dictator when the 9/11 attacks took place, remember. Musharraf's ISI had full control over the Haqqani network and the Taliban that were responsible for over 500 deaths of US soldiers between 2001 and 2007. In 2006, Musharraf as dictator facilitated the secretive transfer of Osama bin Laden and his family from Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia into Pakistan. It was very likely Musharraf's idea that Osama be concealed in plain sight at a compound very close to the Pakistan Military Academy in Abbottabad, not some remote safe house which would look suspicious. It was Musharraf's total hubris that compelled him to order the infiltrations that triggered the Kargil conflict with India in 1999. It was his complete lack of honor that over 100 Pakistani soldiers who made the supreme sacrifice for their country were abandoned on Indian soil by their army chief, Musharraf, who was too busy ensuring plausible deniability to care about the families of those men. You tell me, viewer, does any of this sound like a man who was a force for peace? Or someone who was looking for a genuine solution? Or was Musharraf plainly a narcissistic warmonger who couldn't even get that right? So to the Tharoors and Mehboobas of this country, go ahead and express your condolences all you want. That's the Indian way. But please don't lie about India's enemies, because that's precisely what you've done. Keep watching India Today. That's a wrap on 5 Live. Thanks so much for watching. 6 p.m. Prime with Akshita Nandagopal is next. Death and destruction on a terrifying scale as 2 big earthquakes have jolted Turkey in less than 24 hours. It's a special broadcast with ground reports from Turkey with Akshita next.
Shah Rukh Khan's Pathaan has been rocking at the movie theatres. It is in fact being touted as the best action movie of recent times. But is it true? What does the Tech Today community think about it? Are the tech sequences worth watching the movie in the movie theatre, or will the Tech Today community wait to watch it on OTT? Let's try and find out. Where will it be, in the cinema theatre or on OTT?
Cinemas. SRK in cinemas.
Movie theatre. OTT.
Will you be watching it in an IMAX or in a regular theatre?
IMAX for sure.
Yeah, that is really heavy, great VFX, and even John Abraham also, I like him, and Shah Rukh Khan especially.
I have heard a lot about it, how it has a parallel from a Christopher Nolan ka movie, and the technologies that they've used is same, so I want to explore that.
Not interested in watching in a movie theatre.
Is there any reason why you're averse to going to a movie theatre?
I feel more relaxed watching it at home.
Yes, if it releases in Amazon or Netflix, otherwise not.
Actually, we went to the cinema hall yesterday. I almost wanted to watch it, but my wife said we'll watch it on OTT.
Traveling from different parts.
Armed with facts,
Looking at political back.
she takes the news by its horn.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories. From every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
marked for demolition. A neighborhood of Bengaluru Malleshwaram and its adjoining areas have a new flyover coming in. And the residents are up in arms against the plan as it's designed to clear portions of a school, 66 trees and footpaths coming in its way.
This tree which is right next to me, this huge tree over here, this is about 80 to 90 years old. This tree is not going to be there after a while. And so are the trees in this entire stretch of road. They're about 80 to 100 years old. This is the age range of the trees over here. There are about 66 trees over here, and all of them will be felled because the BBMP wants to construct this Sankey Tank flyover. And the footpath that I'm standing right in, and we even see some people talking over here, few residents talking over here about the footpath. And this entire beautiful stretch of the footpath here is not going to be here because this will be constructed into a service road, and this is what the BBMP wants. This red mark that you see over here.
Powered by QO, European bath lounges. Let time wait.
Good evening. You're watching 6 p.m. Prime here on India Today. I'm Akshita Nandagopal, and this evening we're going to be focusing on the big global story of the day, of what's playing out in Turkey right now that's been ravaged by two massive earthquakes. Early this morning here on India Today, we reported of the first earthquake, 7.8 magnitude on the Richter scale, and then a few hours ago, a second earthquake. We're not talking about aftershocks, but a full-fledged 7.6 magnitude quake jolting through South Turkey. We're getting you all the latest ground reports from Turkey and other parts of the world that have also felt these tremors, that have reported casualties. The headlines first. Prime Minister Modi unveils Asia's biggest defense chopper-making unit in Karnataka, fires first big attack over Rafale politics, says this is a slap on the face to all those who spread lies on HAL.
यही HAL है जिसका नाम लेकर लोगों को भड़काने की साजिश रची गई, लोगों को उकसाया गया।
Adani's storm rages in parliament after massive sloganeering by opposition. Both houses adjourned. Rahul Gandhi also targets Modi government. Congress stages pan-India protest.
आप देखना पूरी कोशिश होगी, और ये सरकार नहीं, मोदी जी पूरी कोशिश करेंगे कि पार्लियामेंट में अदानी जी का डिस्कशन ना हो जाए।
Siddaramaiah triggers big row, says Hindutva has scope for murder and violence. BJP accuses Siddaramaiah of speaking the language of tyrants like Tipu Sultan. The wait for a Delhi mayor continues as voting adjourned for the third time. Massive ruckus erupts in House just as voting was about to begin. Death, destruction as second quake jolts Turkey in less than 24 hours. Nearly 1,500 dead. Tremors felt in Syria and Egypt as well. And Hindu hate across Bangladesh as 14 temples are desecrated in a series of orchestrated attacks overnight. Let's get you all the latest updates coming in from South Turkey, where tragically right now the death toll has crossed 1,500. 2 earthquakes have been reported in a matter of hours in Turkey. Now, it's not just Turkey, but Syria also that's been hit badly by these earthquakes. 560 people are dead in Syria alone. The second quake of a magnitude of 7.6 on the Richter scale struck in southeast Turkey this afternoon, and it happened hours after an earlier quake. In Turkey time, it was at about 4:15 in the morning that the first quake had hit. Many people in their sleep had died because the buildings came crashing down. So far, rescue operations are still underway. Over 2,000 people have been rescued from the debris. The rescue operations also have been hit because of the second earthquake that's been reported in the area. All sorts of help and relief operations are underway. Countries are also scrambling to offer all possible help to Turkey, including India. Geeta Mohana, Foreign Affairs Editor, is joining us with more on this. What's happening in Turkey right now is heartbreaking, Geeta. As we speak, there was a second earthquake. Any idea about the kind of damage that's been reported as a result?
Well, the damage is huge in terms of the reports that are coming in, trickling in. But in terms of loss of property or loss of lives, Akshita, it is certainly something that we'll have to wait in terms of the official word from from Turkey, and that certainly has not come. But it certainly is a huge we're talking about a huge magnitude of devastation. Both above 7 on the Richter scale. And while you were talking about it earlier, Akshita, the area that we're talking about is southeast Turkey, bordering Syria, Lebanon, and of course parts of Iraq also felt the tremors because very close to Syria and Turkey. That's the reason why there was tremors there as well. And Cyprus. Given it's in the Mediterranean Sea, and a lot of monitoring is happening whether if the 10 feet deep earthquake could have a tsunami-like situation in the Mediterranean Sea. Having said that, this is the very same area, Akshita, where a lot of Syrian refugees who fled Syria, entered Turkey, actually stay in. There are camps, refugee camps. We do not know in particular whether if refugee camps were hit or not. We do know that an umpteen number of buildings collapsed. So again, we'll have to wait and see what the situation is on the ground. But we are given to understand that the news is absolutely grim and that refugee camps or refugees living on the other side of the border, bordering Syria and Turkey, those Syrian refugees are also affected and impacted. So again, waiting for news, but it doesn't seem, it seems rather grim in terms of what the loss of property and the loss of lives are going to look like. Ultimately.
If anyone wants to wrap their head around the magnitude of this calamity, look at the death toll right now. It's 1,500 plus. At this point, the rescue operations are still underway. On the left of your screens are live images that we're getting to you right now from South Turkey. Well, most of, in fact, the districts that have been worst affected are in parts of Turkey. Yes, there's been a significant damage and death toll that's been reported in parts of Syria as well. Any communication really, Geeta, so far that's coming from the government on rescue and relief operations? How badly was that hit because of the second quake?
Well, the fact that it happened in the same area, around the same area, rescue efforts would have taken longer. But in terms of an official word, Akshita, we do not have details on whether if the rescue operations in the second site was impacted because of the first quake. But we do know that getting people out of the rubble, getting a count certainly is going to take a longer time. There were many videos, unfortunately, Akshita, of people stuck inside buildings, and they started sending videos out. So a very, very disturbing picture when it comes to what is happening in Turkey. And while the magnitude in itself speaks volumes, what the Turkish authorities are doing, city authorities are doing are that one, the rescuers are at work. They're also using a lot of drone footage to see the extent of damage and where all should the rescuers be entering from, or how to approach damaged sites, because there could be people under rubble. So They are using more advanced technology, Akshita. We know that in the past things were very difficult when countries faced earthquakes of such huge magnitude. But they are trying to use more advanced technology. They're using drones. The rescue operations and efforts are underway. But again, there are many buildings have fallen, and it will take a while for them to completely clear out the rubble, or for that matter, rescue anybody who's stuck or stranded under those collapsed buildings.
Very true. And, the people there would have largely been prepared for aftershocks. Usually, after an earthquake of this magnitude, there are aftershocks, but nothing would have prepared them for another massive earthquake of 7.6 magnitude on the Richter scale, hitting them just hours later. Geeta, stay on with me. I'll keep coming back to you for the latest updates. But horrifying images that have been coming in right now from South Turkey as well as Syria that shows you the extent of damage that has been wreaked in these parts because of these particular earthquakes. Let's round up for you all the updates. The most powerful earthquake in nearly a century has killed over 1,500 people in both Turkey and Syria in their sleep as buildings came crashing down at about 4 a.m. in the morning. The 7.8 magnitude quake wiped out entire sections of major Turkish cities in a restless region filled with millions of people. Number of buildings were completely knocked down, as you can see on your screens there, roads filled with debris. Natural gas pipelines in Turkey burst under the force of the powerful earthquake. This video shows pipelines burning up, all flames in the air with plumes of smoke also going up. Rescue workers and local residents have come together. In this footage, you can see them frantically searching for survivors under the rubble of crushed buildings in multiple cities. A little girl was pulled out of that debris from the tiny hole that they drilled through. Hundreds of people are still trapped under the debris. The search for survivors continues right now, challenged no doubt because of the second quake that's jolted the area. Runway of the Hatay airport in Turkey was damaged due to the massive earthquake, and this gives you a sense of how bad really that quake was. It was split into half after the earthquake. Flights were immediately halted. These images are from Iskenderun in Turkey, where there's devastation and destruction because of the earthquake. Turkish President Erdogan said the quake was the country's largest disaster since 1939, saying that 2,800 buildings had collapsed as a result. There were at least 20 aftershocks felt after the first earthquake. The earthquake was so powerful that its tremors were even felt in Lebanon, in Cyprus, Greece, and in Israel. Prime Minister Modi has offered all possible assistance to Turkey. India is all set to send 2 teams of NDRF with 100 personnel, as well as specially trained dog squads and necessary medical equipment to help Turkey in this time of crisis. Horrifying images that are coming in right now, showing you the exact moment when the second earthquake struck. Here in this footage, you have a TV reporter who was reporting live on the crisis, helping other residents also come out of the area when suddenly they felt the ground shake beneath them yet again, confirming that there was a second earthquake that was striking them. Let's see if we can play out for you that entire sequence.
Evet. Hemen bir anne çocuklarını almış. Gel. Gel. Gel, gel, gel. Gel, gel, gel. Gel. Gel sen de çabuk gel. Çabuk gel. Bırak onları gel. Bırak onları. Nereden çıktın? Şöyle açık alanda bekleyin. Açık alanda. Korkma, korkma bir şey yok. Korkma bir şey yok geçti. Bana bak korkma. Bana bak bir şey yok. Bana bak iyisin. Tamam korkma geçti. Tamam. Evet artçı sarsıntılar devam ediyor. Oraya doğru geçmeyin. Hemen annenin yanına gelsen. Geç. Evet. Artçı sarsıntının ardından. Görmüş oldum. Evet. Hemen bir anne çocuklarını almış. Gel.
And that's a moment when a reporter was in fact giving a live feed, a live broadcast, was reporting on the situation on the ground when suddenly they felt a second quake and you can see people running for their lives. That reporter, young reporter there, goes ahead and scoops up a little girl in his arms and moves away to safety. You can only imagine the fear on ground right now. Not just were they concerned about aftershocks, but then there's a second quake, as bad as the first one, hitting them. You can see several buildings around them, which is why all of them are so concerned. And that little girl in tears, you can see her hair powdered with all the dust of the rubble from around her, and all of them struggling to keep calm in this calamity. There have been 20 aftershocks. Add to that, hours later, another earthquake, a magnitude of 7.6. hitting these parts of Turkey. It is in fact in parts of South Turkey that you're seeing the maximum damage and the extent of this earthquake being felt. On the right of your screens, you can see the scale of damage, the extent of damage that's been reported on the ground. These kind of drone footage really showing you the amount of debris left behind across the streets there. Rescue officials, several locals bravely stepping up to try and help in the rescue efforts as much as possible. And this is just one part of Turkey that we're showing you. There are several other provinces, several other districts that are in such bad shape that it's impossible to get cameras through to some of these locations.
Sonra vatandaşları da görüyorsunuz. Deprem oluyor gene.
Scenes of chaos, scenes of panic. You can see people running for their lives there and nothing but debris, smoke that you can see all around. People unsure of how to react. This is the moment when the second earthquake struck. You can see locals in an absolute panic running for their lives, unsure of where they can really go for safety as well. Many of these people were evacuated, but there were a lot more who were still stranded in the area. Look behind, look at that footage when you can see the camera person and this reporter running for their lives along with the locals. He turns around and you can see behind also buildings have collapsed. There's dust right up in the air. Impossible for people to even see through if, by God's grace, they've escaped from that kind of a building collapse. And all of this while rescue efforts were underway, when suddenly, after 20 aftershocks, imagine that, viewers, that everyone thinks the worst is behind them, and then you have another earthquake, equal magnitude as the first one, hitting that very spot. It was so bad, the earthquake's intensity reaching a magnitude of 7.8, 7.6 to 7.8 between the two earthquakes, that it was felt in neighboring countries as well, in Lebanon, Cyprus, in Israel, Syria. Of course, there have been several casualties that have been reported. But heartbreaking images that are coming in, our thoughts, our prayers with the people of Turkey as they go through this terrible, terrible calamity right now. The death toll is at 1,500 right now and counting. Tragically, we cannot confirm the exact numbers right now because the rescue operations are still underway on the ground. We can only hope and pray that all those who are stuck under the rubble, under the debris, can be actually pulled out at the earliest. But what will no doubt hamper all rescue efforts is these aftershocks, these tremors, and these massive quakes that are still being felt in parts of Turkey. As we get to all of these images that are coming in, I just want to bring your focus to each of the images right now that we have on our screens. On the left side, the extreme left of your screens, is the footage from the moment the second quake struck. A 7.6 magnitude earthquake striking at the very province, the very districts that had felt the impact of the first earthquake. Remember, the first one had hit at about 4 a.m. in the morning. Most people were asleep, and tragically, they died in their sleep because buildings just came crashing down. They had no idea what had happened. The second earthquake, you can see rescue officials there wearing those life vests. You have reporters on the ground who are trying to give the world a sense of how bad the situation is. But suddenly the second quake strikes and everyone in a panic is running for their lives. A brief moment, you see the camera person pan there, and you can see all around the camera person, there's nothing but thick plumes of dust, possibly from the collapse of more buildings in the area. These buildings hopefully were already evacuated, but there were many people who were still on the streets. You can see in the center of your screens there footage of how amid all of the relief and rescue work that was underway, suddenly a building, and watch to the right there of that particular footage, you can see a building crashing down there in a spot where already several buildings had collapsed, and that is a serious concern right now for residents, many of whom have evacuated these buildings. But you can hear all of the chaos, the panic in their voices as they are unsure of which way to go, which part of their city, their home is actually safe. And on the extreme right of your screens, we're showing you the drone footage that gives you a sense of the scale of damage that's been reported. It's going to take months, tragically, for people here to get back to normal life, to get back to their homes, to get back to their cities, because there are right now mountains of debris. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this, because you see that on your screens. There are mountains of debris that's piled up now in these parts of Turkey. Heartbreaking to say the least. This is the biggest story of the day, and that's why here on India Today we're getting you the latest updates that are coming in from South Turkey. We've been in fact tracking the latest updates. 1,500 plus who have died, over 5,000 who've been injured as well. And besides these parts of Turkey, in Syria also, there have been reports coming in of massive damage that's been reported, which means that there too the death toll has gone up. It's about 500 and counting right now. In fact, the Turkish President Erdogan has appealed for all possible help, and besides that has also confirmed that over 3,000 buildings have come crashing down so far.
Deprem oluyor gene.
So all of those updates that we just showed you is soon after the second quake struck parts of Turkey. And as we get you these latest images, 1,500 people have died. The death toll, unfortunately, could only go up as the rescue work continues and officials get a grasp of really how grave the situation is. But as a result of this earthquake, as you see on your screens there, pipelines burst, which means you had huge fires breaking out, something that rescue officials had to deal with. Buildings came crashing down, debris all across the street, which meant people had nowhere that they could run to for safety. Power lines have been completely snapped off. Basic supply has been cut off in many of these parts. Let's round up for you all the updates in our next report.
A massive earthquake struck Turkey and Syria in the early hours of Monday. Hundreds died in their sleep as the earthquake, measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale, jolted the region, with cities in Israel even feeling the tremors. The epicenter of the quake that struck at 4:17 a.m. was near Gaziantep, a city in southern Turkey. The earthquake lasted about a minute, brought down buildings in many cities in the region, including Kahramanmaras, Sanluirfa and Iskenderun. Some of these cities shelter Syrian refugees who fled the civil war there. According to Turkish officials, 17 buildings collapsed in the southeastern province of Diyarbakir. Thousands are feared trapped under the rubble left behind by the Templar. Search operations are underway and are likely to take many more hours, if not days. Turkish authorities scrambled rescue teams and supply aircraft to the region. Residents were seen joining the rescue efforts. The quake has hit Turkey's infrastructure. Natural gas pipelines in Hatay burst under the force of the powerful earthquake. The runway of Hatay Airport in Turkey developed cracks in the quake. Turkey has called for international help to deal with this emergency. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has offered all possible assistance to Turkey. India has provided 2 teams of NDRF comprising 100 personnel with specially trained dog squads and necessary equipment to help in search and rescue operations in the earthquake-hit region.
भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों की संवेदनाएं सभी भूकंप पीड़ितों के साथ है। भारत भूकंप पीड़ितों की हर संभव मदद के लिए तत्पर है।
Tremors were also felt in Cyprus, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel and Egypt. The real extent of the damage inflicted by the earthquake will be known in a few days. Bureau Report, India Today.
So what you just saw there in our report, those images were the aftermath of the first earthquake that was reported in South Turkey. And now on your screens, we're getting you the latest images after the second earthquake, which was reported, in fact, in these districts just about 90 minutes ago. This is the situation right now where people are still trying to get a grasp of what's happening. Obviously, they're all fleeing and scared for their lives right now, not sure if there's another earthquake coming their way. Now, while it's common for aftershocks to happen, the fact that you've seen an equally powerful earthquake rip through these parts of Turkey is scary. It's shocking to say the least, and that's why officials are unsure of really what comes next. There's no doubt hampers rescue work also to a large extent, because now locals will be, in fact, unable to help with the rescue efforts. If there was any debris that was piled up under which there are people who are hoping to be saved, that debris now piles up further as well. And let's also show you these images right now of the deadliest earthquakes that we've seen in the history of the world so far. 2002, rejog your memories to the Gujarat nightmare that we saw, in which 13,000 plus people had died in Gujarat. India Today had extensively covered that particular earthquake. It was heartbreaking, to say the least, the images that came in of the tragedy that unfolded in Gujarat. And then you have the earthquake in 2003 in Iran that left over 34,000 people dead and scores more injured. It took months really for Iran to come out of the aftermath of that quake. The other visual that we're showing you right now is from 2005 in Pakistan, where nearly over 86,000 people actually had died in that calamity, which in fact had far-reaching implications for Pakistan as well. In 2006, Indonesia was hit by an earthquake where over 5,000 people died. It also triggered a heartbreaking tsunami, which led to casualties not just in Indonesia, but other parts of the world as well. In 2008, China, in Sichuan, there was a massive earthquake, 69,000 people dead. Those were the known deaths that were reported. Experts suggest that the number was a lot more. But by far the worst calamity to ever hit the world as far as earthquakes, the deadliest earthquake ever, was in Haiti in 2010, when in fact the death toll went up to over 3 lakh and counting. That by far was the worst earthquake that we've ever been inflicted by. And then there's the latest one in Turkey. This year, when you're seeing, in fact, over 1,500 dead, the death toll possibly could go up in the coming hours and days. And the news that's coming in right now is that an earthquake has also jolted New York's Buffalo. As per reports, the tremors were felt in the region at around 6:15 a.m. That is, in fact, Eastern Standard Time. So in America and New York, it was 6:15 in the morning when this earthquake was felt. Now, we understand that the magnitude was about 3.8 on the Richter scale as per US officials. So it doesn't look like there would have been any substantial damage. But there were people, locals in New York, who definitely felt the quake. The United States Geological Survey, the USGS, has also confirmed that this earthquake did occur in parts of New York, particularly in the Buffalo region. It is said that the epicenter of the quake was in West Seneca. The tremors were 3 kilometers in depth. Note that these tremors have happened after two massive earthquakes that hit Turkey. So we're going to continue getting you all the latest live updates coming in from Turkey, along with ground reports of the situation there, our thoughts and prayers with the people of Turkey. I'm slipping into a short break here on 6 p.m. Prime. We're focusing on the big national stories of the day on the other side. There's a massive controversy over the appointment of a judge in the Madras High Court. What is this all about? It's even reached the CJI. We'll tell you in just a bit.
Chopra, how could this have happened? I know it's very difficult to conjecture without a full court of inquiry completing its proceedings. But in your mind, sir, because you've been in Mirage 2000s, you've flown from Gwalior, you've flown dynamic missions where you are expected to fly very, very close to other aircraft. You've been a test pilot. How could something like this happen, sir?
Yeah, Chip, first I must tell you that as you have brought out some facts already, that, the aviation over the years has become much, much safer. We know in the First and Second World War, there used to be thousands of aeroplanes in the same area, and yet there were not so many collisions. And over the years, if you see the number of collisions, no, this is unfortunate that we have lost a pilot in Gwalior, but the last one was a SCAT in 2019, which was an inverted flying display. And the one before that was in 2015 when two Su-30s had collided. Yes. So there are phenomenal amount of aids in addition to the support that the ground controller, the radar controller gives you. There is a support within you, the avionics, there is a radar, there are other sensors that are all the time telling you the presence of the other aircraft. But, must remember that, we are in military aviation. Combat training has to be realistic. The aeroplanes are flying very fast. They are turning at high Gs. There are, high speeds. And there are physiological, forces that are acting on your body. So there is. So what is critical is that situational awareness, the combine of the controller and the pilot and the other members of the formation. There is a need for, a close situational awareness of where the other aircraft is with whom you're maneuvering. But again, as I must say that, in this particular case, in Gwalior, this Mirage 2000 aircraft and the Su-30 that are reportedly have collided, details are still not known, and any conjectures may not be absolutely correct. But the overall accident rate of the Indian Air Force is phenomenally good. Nowadays you're having a current accident rate is 0.15. Now, how do you calculate accident rate in the Air Forces? For every 10,000 hours, how many accidents have taken place? So the rate is very good. You will recall that in the 1990s, we were losing close to 20 aircraft a year or even more. And the rate was much higher. And nowadays, we have come down to between 10 and 20, and there are many years when you have got less than 10 aircraft accidents, and among them the mid-air collisions are very, very far and very, very few, despite such high performance aircraft flying.
Welcome back. The appointment of a judge in the Madras High Court has sparked a fresh debate and a war of words. The centre has notified the appointment of Victoria Gowri as an additional judge of the Madras High Court, and it's led to a legal fight as lawyers of the Madras High Court have now approached the Supreme Court against her elevation. Why? Because she's a member of the BJP. Now, these lawyers have contended exactly that. They've gone to the Supreme Court seeking an urgent hearing, saying she cannot be a judge in the High Court. The matter came up for hearing before the top court today, and the CJI confirmed that the collegium, which had actually recommended her elevation in January, has taken cognizance of the developments. The Supreme Court will now hear this case tomorrow. Ever since the news of her elevation, lawyers have been up in arms against Gowri being made a judge. In fact, 21 lawyers in Chennai, practicing lawyers, shot off a letter to President Murmu saying Gowri had made bigoted comments in the past and had regressive views, and hence her appointment must be shot down. Pramod Madhav is joining us live from Chennai. We also have Anisha Mathur getting us the latest on how this case has been playing out in the Supreme Court. Pramod, I'd like to begin with you. Good evening. You know, this has been a bone of contention, a big talking point for the last many days actually in Tamil Nadu, because you've had lawyers up in arms, politicians are also up in arms against Victoria Gowri's elevation.
Absolutely, Akshita. Good evening. And the thing is that it was first brought in to the notice by All India Lawyers Union, and we also spoke to the CPM State Secretary, who are all claiming they're absolutely shocked. And the only thing they are bringing against Gowri, Victoria Gowri, is that they state that there are evidence on social media of hate speech by Victoria Gowri that is against Christian community and Muslim community. This is what they claim to be a content against her becoming an additional judge. But the interesting factor here is that as they were trying to appeal in the Supreme Court itself, her appointment notification was given. And this is where they claim they're completely shocked over it. They claim that they are not against any lawyer being made a judge. But the problem here is that they believe that Victoria Gowri is a member of the BJP party, and how she could be made a judge even after there is evidence of her having hate speech or kind of words against a certain community. This seems to be the
two
argument
points of
from the
contention
opposition
that they've raised. One is about these so-called hate speeches, which they were also, in fact, put out widely from YouTube, etc., of interviews of Victoria Gowri. And the second being that she's a member of the BJP. Anisha Mathur is joining us with more on this. You know, there's this ongoing debate over already the collegium system, Anisha, and now the focus is on what's played out with Victoria Gowri. Take us through what happened in the Supreme Court, because the CJI has directly taken note of this.
Well, yes, Akshita. Now, interestingly enough, at 12:12, when the Law Minister Kiren Rijiju tweeted that 13 names for various high courts had been cleared, just minutes after that, at 12:14, this matter was mentioned before the Supreme Court of India. Now, of course, there is no correlation between the timeline as such, but the matter was mentioned before the Supreme Court of India, saying that there are serious objections to this particular appointment. Now, what the petitioners have said, and these are three lawyers from the Madras bar who have raised, as our colleague was also saying, two lines of arguments. One, that there are hate speeches that have been given by Victoria Gowri, who is now has been elevated. Her notification has come for elevation to the High Court. Secondly, that she is an office bearer of the BJP in Tamil Nadu, and therefore what the petition says in the Supreme Court is that her speeches violate Article 15, which is the therefore, she is not qualified to be a judge of the High Court.
Let's see what happens really in the Supreme Court. For the moment, I've run out of time. Thanks, Anisha and Pramod, for joining us. I'm slipping into a short break here on 6 p.m. Prime. Coming up on the other side, we're rounding up what happened in Parliament for you. Both in Parliament and outside, protests breaking out over the Adani controversy.
Decompression is important. De-stressing is essential, and we can't just stress this enough. The best way is shorter trips, domestic and international both. And the options are many and rather very exciting.
Maldives is constrained for 4 nights in a hotel, but Sri Lanka's experiences, whether you have the commercials to spend or whether you don't have commercials to spend. Sri Lanka offers you Hills Sri Lanka, and it also offers you beach, adventure, good food, and a connect for Indian. And I think anywhere where Indians go, they want to be connected by heart because we are raised on emotional values than anything else. So Sri Lankans understand that, and we perform that really well.
Add to that the trend of sustainability in tourism and how the consumer today is very discerning about responsible travel.
Sri Lanka is actually automatically sustainable. I mean, it's fairly low energy. The higher end resorts are, they understand that this is what the discerning tourist is looking for, and increasingly sustainability is coming and is there. I mean, the country is naturally sort of low carbon. We can save certain amounts by the way that we fly, and we're all doing that. Mangroves, I think, absorb maybe 12 times the carbon that a normal forest does. Seagrass is more like 36 times. So, blue carbon is a really important subject. And, where we are, we're an island, tropical islands, it's an obvious kind of thing to do. So those are the things that we're working on.
One big trend amidst the discerning traveler is the fact that the Indian traveler is more a traveler rather than just tourist.
Indians predominantly are becoming travelers to tourists. We were tourists all this while, but we are changing to become travelers. And tourists is which they go by recommendations of travel agents. But travelers are the ones who know what they want, but they still want assistance from a travel company to make their trip flawless. And they don't worry about a lot of money and bucks over there, because true depth of a vacation is also felt when you do things differently and not with the itinerary.
Sustainable tourism helps create jobs, and the location benefits by your travel by means of how you understand and contribute to the preservation efforts of the location's cultural history, wildlife preservation initiatives, reduction of carbon emissions, restoration of landscape and water bodies, and so much more. The discerning traveler today understands this, and the trend is palpable. For India's neighbouring country, an island that has just come out of a tough couple of months, Sri Lanka, the doors are again wide open. In New Delhi, Chaiti Narula for India Today.
Welcome back. Siddharth Malhotra and Kiara Advani are all set to tie the knot on February 7th at the beautiful Suryagarh Palace in Jaisalmer. Kiara was last seen visiting Manish Malhotra's studio ahead of her wedding. Siddharth Malhotra was in Delhi to take stock of the preparations. We've got all the exclusive details of this year's most anticipated wedding, and I'm leaving you with this report.
Wedding bells are ringing louder than ever as Bollywood's it couple is finally ready to say their I do's. That's right, Siddharth Malhotra and Kiara Advani are all set to begin a new chapter of their lives as husband and wife. The most anticipated wedding of 2023 is happening in Jaisalmer, Rajasthan. India Today sources reveal that the couple was quite keen on having their wedding in the month of love. You guessed it right, February is the month of lovers all across the world to celebrate, and Sid and Kiara chose the same to take their relationship to the next level. The duo will tie the knot on 7th February at Surekar Palace Hotel. The preparations are in full swing. The wedding venue is all decked up. The guests are welcomed with Rajasthani folk dance and music. It's finally happening. The Sher Shah couple is only hours away from becoming husband and wife. And as the festivities are to begin today, the bride-to-be had already reached Jaisalmer. Kiara was spotted at the airport as she arrived for her wedding with friend and celebrity fashion designer Manish Malhotra, who accompanied her to the wedding venue. As per India Today sources, there will be Sangeet and Haldi on Sunday and Feras on Monday. Kiara was also heard discussing a Sangeet song playlist with her friends in Dubai over the New Year's. Since Sher Shah was a huge hit for both of them, Rata Lambia is already on the Sangeet playlist. What's more, Kiara was seen visiting Manish Malhotra's store ahead of the wedding, while Sid was too in Delhi before the wedding festivities to take stock of the preparations. The couple will be wearing a traditional wedding outfit assembled by Manish Malhotra for their wedding. Siddharth and Kiara also ensured a desert safari for the guests, along with food stalls which will consist of Rajasthani cuisine. The guests will even be treated to the wonderful Rajasthani folklore performances by the Manganiyar artists beneath the Rajasthani skyline. And also to receive a spa voucher as a treat in their respective luxury villas. Immediate family members and close friends from the industry, including Karan Johar, Shahid Kapoor and his wife Meera, Isha Ambani and husband Anand Piramal are among other guests who have reached the wedding venue. Wedding photographer Vishal Punjabi too was spotted at the venue. While it's going to be an intimate wedding, the couple has planned to host two receptions, one in Delhi and another for the film industry friends in Mumbai. Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
The only woman designer to have ever showcased at Paris Couture Week. She did that last year. This year, she did it off calendar amidst many other designers. Abyss. Her collection was deeply inspired by what lies under the vastness of the ocean. As a diver, she loves exploring the colors in the beautiful world that lies under the ocean. And while her showcased collection may outwardly have reflected that, at a quote-unquote deeper level, it was all about rediscovery of the inner self. Art meets couture has always been at the core of Vaishali's creations, and the flow of the outfit is very similar to the way the water exists. Hand weaves by Indian artisans, coding techniques, choice of sustainable fabrics, and Indian heritage are the core of what she creates. The world has taken notice of how sustainable her creations are. She herself wore one of her outfits in a typical Indian hue with her sculptural technique. It was a dress for the Western world, and for Indians, it was a twist to our heritage saris with the drape coming over her shoulder. Teamed with vintage Indian jewelry and tin cans, very interestingly used in villages, made fashionable as bags, a showcase of Indian art and craft got pulled off by Vaishali in her work. Interestingly, Vaishali Shadangule has never showcased at FDCI India Couture Week, and she does hope to do that very, very soon.
What I want viewers around the world to know this, and consumers rather around the world to know this, that when you're picking up a piece from a designer, whether it is you, whether it is, you know, some of the other stalwarts coming in from India who are also doing some fabulous work, and it's stunning, right? They need to understand the story that goes behind each and every one of these pieces, because how many brands today can stand up and say, number one, we're completely sustainable?
Designers, they have really big role to play to, I think, educate, and whatever they are selling, the story behind that piece, you know, it should be there very transparently.
While all her work is sustainable, she takes that beyond fashion into social impact, storytelling, and art. In fact, her flagship store in Mumbai stands testimony to sustainable decor. In Mumbai, Chaiti Narula for India Today.
Congratulations on this good set of numbers that you've reported. Your own take, you know, was it in line with your expectations or better than your expectations? And also, what were the key factors that really supported the bottom line?
As you know, we were the first ones in the life insurance space to do a M&A, and we had guided the street that we will be margin neutral about a year down the line, but very happy to share that we are already at margin neutrality, which means that the combined entities margins, new business margins are in line with where we were last year, and from here on we will continue to build that upwards. So slightly ahead. Apart from that, very happy in terms of whether it's in top line. We have grown faster than the sector at 17%. And all the elements of growth, our agency channel, their share has grown from about 14% to 18%. Annuity has trended upwards above 60%. Protection sequential growth has been about 13-14%. Credit life has grown upwards of 50%. And hence, because of all of this, this has not surprisingly resulted in fairly healthy margins and also a healthy PAT, like you mentioned, of over 15% growth.
You know, what are the trends that you're already witnessing? 20th of January already here, you know, in January, and for the entire FY23, can we safely say it's going to be a good growth year for HDFC Life?
Yes, it's going to be a holistic year, good growth in profitability, very steady in terms of quality of business, in terms of persistency.
The fast fashion industry is one of the biggest and most significant contributors to pollution globally. The extremely detrimental impact of fast fashion waste on the environment has been known for a while. According to earth.org, the fast fashion industry contributes to nearly 10% of global carbon emissions. Millions of clothes end up in landfills every day. While none of this is news, the debate on sustainability is an interesting one. Some of the senior members of this industry are extremely aware and sustainable and making an effort towards it.
If you are taking care of the people who are making the garments, who are weaving it, and then back end they are using the natural fiber to create the fabric, so they are not using plastics or polyesters, but they are using the green cotton and using that to create the fabric. Then I'm using those fabric, handloom fabric, to make fashionable garments. So ultimately it is sustaining the whole chain of the cycle. Even after usage, if it goes back to the earth, it disintegrates and turns into manure. So all these things are very much there, which I am very much supporting and doing from the beginning of my career. And I think that is what my bit can be.
Pranav Kirti, who owns a fashion label with a strong social commentary, has a rather interesting view. His philosophy is buy more as it contributes to employment in India.
Our dialogue and our narration of the entire story that you buy less. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to preach and you buy less. I think I have a little bit of a conflict over there. I feel as creative intellectuals and as industry stakeholders, it is our responsibility to make better. So buy as much as you want, but then it's our houses which have to produce better. By just buying less, nothing is going to be so remarkably impactful in the West. But over here, people are going to lose their jobs and it's literally going to come down to their livelihoods. So we as entrepreneurs and as leaders have to provide better avenues for their income and as well as for our customers so that they have better options in the market.
So is our Indian concept of sustainability borrowed? Yes and no.
Like in the previous years, like maybe 100, 200 years before, our country was so much more sustainable in terms of, the way we used to have our cooking and food, our textiles, everything was having a certain meaning. How it should be going this much only and then it will return back to the earth. So because of the fast life and so much of, in the name of progression, we have kind of actually gone backwards.
Volkswagen Tiguan, India's safest SUVW.
Warm welcome. You are watching Mission 2024. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. It's your one-stop destination of all news political leading up to the big gig of 2024 general elections. These are the headlines. Prime Minister Modi unveils Asia's biggest defense chopper making unit in Karnataka. Fires first big attack over Rafale politics, says this is a slap on the face to all those who spread lies.
जेल है जिसका नाम लेकर लोगों को भड़काने की साजिश रची गई, लोगों को उकसाया.
Adani storm rages in Parliament after massive sloganeering by opposition. Both houses adjourn. Rahul Gandhi corners Modi government. Congress stages pan-India protest.
आप देखना पूरी कोशिश होगी और ये सरकार नहीं, मोदी जी पूरी कोशिश करेंगे कि पार्लियामेंट में अदानी जी का डिस्कशन ना हो जाए.
Siddaramaiah triggers big row, says Hindutva has scope for murder and violence. BJP accuses Siddaramaiah of speaking the language of tyrants like Tipu Sultan. Delhi's wait for its civic body head continues 2 months after polls. Still no mayor for MCD elections called off for the third time today. Death and destruction as a third quake jolts Turkey in less than 24 hours. Over 1,600 dead, tremors felt in Syria and Egypt.
Gel sen de çabuk gel, çabuk gel. Bırak onları gel, bırak onları.
Unrest across Bangladesh as 14 temples were desecrated in a series of orchestrated attacks. All right.
right, viewers, let's take you directly to Tripura. Tripura polls on the 16th of February, and it's a high-octane campaign that's on. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, campaigning in the state of war. Tripura speaks exclusively to India today during his Agartala roadshow. Listen in.
त्रिपुरा में मेगा रैली कर रहे हैं अमित शाह और उन्हीं के इस ट्रक में हैं हम लोग और बात करेंगे सर से। सर, आप बीजेपी एकमात्र पार्टी है जो सबसे ज्यादा सीटों पर चुनाव लड़ रही है और कोई पार्टी इतने सीट पे नहीं लड़ ले। क्या आपको लगता है कि अकेले ही आप सरकार बना लोगे?
हम गत चुनाव से ज्यादा वोट से सीटों के साथ त्रिपुरा में मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में सरकार बनाएंगे।
सर, इस बार जो सबसे दूसरा जो नाम आ रहा है सामने वो त्रिपुरा मोता का है। क्या आप त्रिपुरा मोता को सीरियसली ले रहे हो?
चुनाव में हर एक प्रतिद्वंदी सीरियसली लेना होता है, परंतु हमने ट्राइबल्स के कल्याण के लिए जो किया है, मोदी जी ने 40,000 ब्रू रियांग भाइयों को यहाँ सेटल कर ट्राइबलों में एक अच्छा संदेश भेजा है। हर ट्राइबल, हर गरीब, हर ओबीसी के घर में पीने का पानी, घर, बिजली, गैस, शौचालय, 5 लाख तक की सारी स्वास्थ्य की सुविधाएं और फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट राशन पहुंचाने का काम किया है। 2.5 दशक के कम्युनिस्ट शासन में एक कभी नहीं हुआ। पूरा ट्राइबल उत्साह के साथ मोदी जी के साथ है, हमारे मुख्यमंत्री के साथ है, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के साथ।
त्रिपुरा मोता का सेटिंग है, आपने कहा है कांग्रेस और लेफ्ट के साथ।
जब हम 50% से ज्यादा वोट प्राप्त करते हैं, कोई सेटिंग काम में नहीं आता है।
एक लास्ट सवाल आपसे, क्या इस चुनाव में ममता बनर्जी फैक्टर है, वो भी कैंपेन कर रही है?
हर एक व्यक्ति ने चुनाव लड़ने का अधिकार है, हर कोई लड़ सकता है।
All right, viewers, it's battleground Tripura. Amit Shah campaigning in Tripura there. It's a battle of prestige for the Bharatiya Janata Party to keep control of Tripura. Will the tribal vote on which that the Bharatiya Janata Party had come to power the last election still stick with the Bharatiya Janata Party? On the other hand, Mamta Banerjee is also in Agartala at the same time as the Home Minister. It's imperative, it's a trial by fire for the TMC. If the TMC is going to go ahead with what it wants in terms of its national ambition, it would need to leave a big footprint when it comes down to Meghalaya and Tripura. I want to cut across right now. All right, let's quickly listen in to Amit Shah.
त्रिपुरा में मेगा रैली कर रहे हैं अमित शाह और उन्हीं के इस ट्रक में हैं हम लोग और बात करेंगे सर से। सर, आप बीजेपी एकमात्र पार्टी है जो सबसे ज्यादा सीटों पर चुनाव लड़ रही है और कोई पार्टी इतने सीट पे नहीं लड़ ले। क्या आपको लगता है कि अकेले ही आप सरकार बना लोगे?
हम गत चुनाव से ज्यादा वोट से सीटों के साथ त्रिपुरा में मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में सरकार बनाएंगे।
सर, इस बार जो सबसे दूसरा जो नाम आ रहा है सामने वो त्रिपुरा मोता का है। क्या आप त्रिपुरा मोता को सीरियसली ले रहे हो?
चुनाव में हर एक प्रतिद्वंदी सीरियसली लेना होता है, परंतु हमने ट्राइबल्स के कल्याण के लिए जो किया है, मोदी जी ने 40,000 ब्रू रियांग भाइयों को यहाँ सेटल कर ट्राइबलों में एक अच्छा संदेश भेजा है। हर ट्राइबल, हर गरीब, हर ओबीसी के घर में पीने का पानी, घर, बिजली, गैस, शौचालय, 5 लाख तक की सारी स्वास्थ्य की सुविधाएं और फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट राशन